Heidi ho, good neighbors. It's Thursday. We've almost made it through the week. One more day. Sure, it's been a chaotic time for everybody, so let's let loose and have some fun. I got a great guest tonight. Before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody to please go over and subscribe to the YouTube. If you'd like to hit that alert button, that'd be great. If you don't, no problem. So go over to YouTube. Also, we have the show December 6th, so come on out to Suffolk County, Long Island, December 6th, 10 to 6 p.m. Billy Tucci, Larry Stroman, Keith Williams, Rodney Ramos, you name it. We have a good time. We have a lot of great artists. It's going to be fun. Now let's get to some shout-outs. We got Mad Titan Comics, Mad Titan _comics on Instagram. Eric Gunderson is the owner and operator on Facebook. If you want slab books, key issues, dollar issues, you name it, he is the guy to go to fill your run. We also have Andy Lee, the awesome dude who does all my graphics and promotion graphics. So thank you to Andy Lee. That's www.letsdodis.com, LESDUDIS. Thanks, Andy. We've got The Bit and Apple, and we've got It Came From the Radio, two awesome shows that are online. Bit and Apple is Rafael Tavares Jr. and guests, and I'm sorry, staff. I'm blowing it right now. Anyway, and then you've got It Came From Radio, Mark Torres and his crew. Please go check them out. And finally, we have Kike, Art by Kike on Instagram, has his Monday night show, Inking with Kike, 8 p.m. He gets guests every week. This month is Female Artists Month, so go check him out. Anyway, having said that, tonight's guest, who we rescheduled because he was graciously going to bail me out last Friday when we had a cancellation. So I wasn't able to, so we have him tonight, is big in the indie scene. If you don't know him, then you must be new to the indie scene. He does a lot for the community. I mean, he's got his Artist Alley network on Facebook. He's got his comic book shopping network on Facebook. He's got Comic Unity online. He's the owner, he's a writer, he's creator of Big Dog Inc. He's got some great titles out in the indie scene right now. So we're going to sit down and talk about all that. Today we welcome Tom Hutchison.
Hey, what's happening? How are you?
Oh, I'm not in game shape today. I don't know why. So what's going on?
Oh, not much. Just living the dream, the comic book world. That's all I can do. So that's what I do.
Well, first, I do want to say thanks again. You were very kind. You were going to bail me out last minute with the cancellation last week, unfortunately, because the circumstances didn't happen. So here we are, but I do appreciate that.
All good.
So, I mean, obviously, you've been big in the indie scene for a long time now. I mean, how many years have you been doing this?
10 years. This is our official, Big Dog Inc.'s official 10-year anniversary this year. So, yeah.
Awesome. And you've got a lot of great titles coming out through that.
We have 11 titles now that we've done over the past 10 years, something like that. Spin-offs here and there as well. But as far as like actual titles, yeah, we've got 11 and more to come if I ever can find the time to get to more of this stuff that's in the back of my head.
Can you name all 11 off the top of your head?
No.
I was like, let's see, let's test them.
No. It's a core 5, really. It's Critter and Penny for Your Soul, which are 10 years old. We started with them in 2010. Then we went to The Legend of Oz, Wicked West. Then we went to Ursa Minor, and then we went to Scheherazade. So that's kind of our core 5. Everything else really is sort of starting points. Lights, Camera, Jungle, Kaiju Epic, Antoinette, Princess vs. Zombies. All those books all have basically one issue. They were things that we did kind of on the side as we were doing the other books. During some of it happened during the time we went over to Aspen for a while, and they were reprinting our books. So since there was nothing really new, that's when we started testing out Kickstarter, and we did Kaiju Epic and Lights, Camera, Jungle on Kickstarter. So a lot of our books are new and single issue, but we do have like that kind of core 5 that we have multiple volumes of.
Ursa Minor looks really interesting to me, actually. I really like the premise of that. And I love Godzilla growing up, so Kaiju, I mean, you can't go wrong. Just give me giant monsters and buildings to destroy, and
It's really weird that it took me. I mean, this is now 2010, so we did that 4 years ago. So it took me 6 years roughly to come up with doing a kaiju book. I don't know why it never occurred to me to do a kaiju book. But I think the trigger actually came when I went to G Fest in Chicago, and I realized that there was a lot more. Number one, there was a lot more kaiju comics than I realized because people were making their own stuff.
Right.
But then also I really realized that, hey, I'm not like the only like kaiju nerd. Like there's like 4,000 people running around this hotel, chomping at the bit to meet, actors from the movies and like, I mean, it's Comic-Con, but it's for Godzilla. So the whole thing, I mean, obviously it's Gamera and Ultraman and all that too, but the focus is Godzilla. And I'm just like, every time I walk through those doors, it's like, this is heaven right here. Like I'm in heaven now. And there's still lines. Because there's a huge line to get into the dealer's room all the time.
I've been a Godzilla fan since like 4 or 5 years old. Just loved it. I mean, I still love it. One of my favorites is versus Megalon. I don't care that it's cheesy, but when they made these new movies, it was like, oh my god, this is a dream come true, man.
Yeah.
So, do you think there was a resurgence with these movies that really helps? These kaiju books that are coming out, especially your own.
You know what, the kaiju stuff is so niche market, like it's hyper niche market. Right. Because even within the kaiju world, there are people that are like watching King of the Monsters, the last one that just came out, and they're like, dude, this is like terrible movie. And I'm like, oh my god, what are you talking about? I know you've watched Son of Godzilla, which is the most unwatchable thing on the planet, and you're gonna complain about King of the Monsters. I'm like, I can't deal with it. So
it's no Mecha King Kong, man.
It's oh my god, it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. But it's so niche. It's so hyper niche. The kaiju market. It's there 100%. Like people travel from around the country to go to Chicago for G Fest. They come in from out of the country to go to G Fest because it's one of the few like real focused types of conventions. There's a few that have like, oh, we have a Godzilla guest or whatever, but this is like, no, dude, you walk into the G Fest dealer room and you don't even know where to begin. It's an amazing experience and I love it. So it was just, I think it just triggered me. I was like, yeah, man, I could do a kaiju book, and I didn't know what it was at the time. It took me a while to figure it out. And like I said, at the time we were dealing with Aspen and all this stuff was going on. My divorce was happening, and it was just like, oh my god, it was too much. But somehow the nugget was there, and I was like, okay, we're going to get this done. And a couple of years later, we had it done.
By the way, you got my Rogues Gallery and your crew coming in here. Mr. Locklear, oh, I thought the guest was Jimmy Noble tonight. And unfortunately, we're not getting liquored up tonight, Phil. So this isn't Saturday Unscripted. We got a lot of hellos here. Heather's here to say hello. Jack Napier, John Ottinger, which is one of my rogues. Raphael Devaris, Mark May is here saying what's up. Bradney. So we got a bunch of hellos here.
Awesome. So we're just gonna like shoot the breeze, guys. But if you have questions like specifics, please throw them out in the room, because sometimes the guest and the host will just kind of like go off on weird tangents. But if there's something you actually want to know, I'm happy to go into specific directions.
Join the tangent.
Or join the tangent. You can do that too. Yeah.
Keith, want to know if we've read the new Ultraman comics yet? I have not.
Nope. Ultraman was never a thing for me. I don't know why. It's kind of weird that it never was, but Ultraman just was never a thing for me.
You want to know why he isn't for me? And this is going to sound totally crazy to you, and I know it's not the case, but to me, he's always a wannabe Jet Jaguar.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I love Jet Jaguar. Everybody's like, what are you, stupid? I'm like, man, against Megalon and Gigan, that was awesome. Yeah. And Godzilla's doing the dance, and he's all excited.
And Jet Jaguar's in the new anime that's coming out next year.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, somebody told me that.
Yep.
See, the thing is that the Netflix Godzillas that have been out, or is that something else?
Well, it's a new one. It's a new...
Because those weren't that good, man.
No, they were terrible. Just say it. They're terrible. But I don't know what this new one's going to be, but it is a complete reimagining. It's totally new. Basically, if you really pay attention, Toho doesn't really do continuity very much. No. The High Sea era was super continuity, but if you go into Showa, it's very loose and just kind of like, well, now he's on an island and now he's fighting, whatever. It's whatever. So with the animes, they did a trilogy, which was obviously continuity, but this is now a completely new
Yeah, because they
thing.
were disappointing. I was really disappointed.
Everybody was. Honestly, realistically, everybody was, except for the people that hated King of the Monsters. They hated the anime. Stick it to you guys.
Yeah. And I'm just telling you now, I'm sorry. There is no friggin' way King Kong can last 5 seconds against Godzilla.
Well,
No way.
the thing with the Kong versus Godzilla is we're going to have, to some degree, in my mind, the Yoda effect from Attack of the Clones with it when he fights Palpatine with the lightsaber.
He's gonna be jumping around him and
Yeah. It's going to be speed and agility versus just pure power, and I think that's where you're going to have kind of the interesting fights and stuff.
As long as if he gets struck by lightning, it doesn't make the gorilla stronger. I mean, what the
he
hell?
has to get hit by lightning, dude. He has to. That's a must have. He has to get hit by lightning.
By the way, Mark agrees with me, man. That's right. Megalon, baby. That's the way to go. But yeah, I mean, that please. And, people don't realize the version we saw, King Kong versus Godzilla in the 60s, Godzilla loses because that's the American version. The Japanese version, King Kong loses.
That's not really quite true. No one really loses in either version, because basically they fall off a cliff and Kong swims away. That's the end of the movie. But in the Japanese movie, and then they say, like, we don't see King Kong anywhere, or I mean, we don't see Godzilla anywhere, and the movie kind of ends. In the Japanese version, it's the same thing, but at the end there's like a Godzilla roar, and so it implies that he's still there. Like, he didn't die. Obviously, he didn't die. These guys don't die anyway. And that's really it. The movies are completely different when you watch them, but really the endings are the same. It's the getting there that's very, very different. And if you guys, I had never seen the Japanese version until last year when the big Criterion Blu-ray thing came out. And I just about lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, I get to watch this thing in the Japan version for the first time ever in my life. Never would I have imagined to get to see it. And that movie is ingrained in my head because I've seen it 200 times. So watching the Japanese version, I didn't even have to compare. I knew everything that was different as I was going through. And just from the story changes vaguely as you're going through. So it's a really, for those that want to get into Godzilla stuff, the old movies have variations from how you saw them from Japan to America. And it's interesting how they've changed.
Jack asked if we had seen the Scotty Young cover for Rise of Ultraman. I did not. I've
seen some of the Art Adams stuff because I follow his page.
Yeah.
Which is always awesome.
Keith, I just introduced it to somebody. It came out in the early 80s or maybe late 70s. Godzilla versus Bambi. Have you ever seen that? I loved it.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's great.
It's an epic film.
Epic fight.
The biggest twist ever.
Yeah. And the soundtrack was awesome. So, I mean, you have a lot going on. I don't know how the hell you're managing all of it, but you write Critter, and you've got all these books you're publishing through Big Dog, but you're also doing a lot for the community. I mean, you got Artist Alley Shopping Network. You got guys like Jason Metcalf on there, Ryan Kincaid. They're going on there every week. Jason's there religiously 1 p.m. here on Mondays, and you can go see some really great artists and buy their work. And
every day we have somebody on. We have at least one person on every day, and in most days there's two. So there's always something going on, sort of either in the afternoons or evenings. Yeah, well, depending on your time zones too.
Right. Now, if somebody wanted to get on the network, do they reach out to you and show you what they're selling, or how do they get on the network to do?
Yeah, basically the network is designed for vetted artists who are actively working either for other people, like Metcalf and Kincaid, they work for Zenoscope and so on, doing covers, whatever, or people that are doing their own work, like Rob Hicks has been doing his own comics for many years. He's done stuff for other people too. He just did something for me. But you need to be actively doing something in the comic book world for a period of time. I mean, like, anybody can just hey, I'm making a comic now. Well, okay, you and 10,000 other people are making a comic now, but we need to see a little bit of longevity. Sure. To kind of be like, okay, we have vetted this guy. He's done 4 or 5 issues. He's done this, he's done that, or he's working actively as a cover artist or whatever. And then we can kind of see if there's a spot that makes sense. Like I said, it's really filled up quite a bit. So a lot of the key spots in the evenings are taken up every night, but there are still early days and weekends and so on that can be done. But really, it's just a matter of showing me multiple things. One, showing me that what you've done, what you're doing, and two, that you can take a 2-hour show and do it every week. Basically, be primetime television for the internet. I've had some people that have reached out to me and they've been like, "Oh yeah, I want to do this," and I'm like, "Okay, well, this is what you need to do." And as soon as they saw everybody else doing it, they were like, "No, I can't do this." And I was like, "Okay, this is just basically like being at your table at Comic-Con for 2 hours and talking to people." But
it's exhausting though, and it's not easy to keep people focused on what you're doing. It's not as easy as as it may look. You have to put work into it. I mean,
well, for sure.
If you don't have a handsome face like this, it's really tough. Phil said at some point we have to address the most important series to come, Lingerie Wars.
Yeah. The big joke that became a thing. It's not even a thing yet. I told everybody 2025. We got plenty of time.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is Phil does a show as well, and he's got his regular crew. I've got my regular crew. I mean, they cross-pollinate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got your inside jokes. We've got our inside jokes, and it's kind of cool though when you see how these communities build, and how they go from there.
Well, and the goal is to get all of. There's so many people doing different things. Like you're doing it, Phil's doing it, whatever I'm doing whenever I'm doing it. I don't know. But the point is to try and get some of this stuff to cross over. Mm-hmm. And it's there should never be in this arena. There should never be like Marvel and DC fans. Like it should just be, we're all just comic book fans.
Agreed.
And let's talk about comics and whatever context we want to talk about, and get everybody involved.
Yeah, and I don't see other shows as competition. I see that as like just more content for us all to enjoy.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, the whole point is we want to give exposure to everybody, especially with the indie scene being bigger than ever.
Mm-hmm. This
is the time that, you guys, you're getting the audience. I mean, because the quality of indie work now is on a level that is with the publishers, Sure. There was a time where indie work, you're like, well, I can see why it's indie,
Sure.
Now, I mean, look at the art behind you. Look at what you put out for Critter, and it's quality work, and I think that's huge. So yeah, let's give it exposure.
Yeah, when we started Big Dogging 10 years ago, I told my partner at the time, I was like, look, artistically, we have to be able to take our book and put it up next to Marvel or DC or Image or whoever else, and it has to stand up, because if it doesn't, we're already 50% behind anything else on the rack.
Right.
Because it has to be able to look good enough that somebody will be like, what is that? And pick it up and look at it, So that's where the cover art comes in, of course. Then you go into the whole variant discussion and all that. But you've got to have a cover enough that's going to draw them in. If they don't know what it is, they have to look at it and go, okay, what is that? And then pick it up.
I agree. By the way, they're filtering in Jimmy Noble, Toasters, Summer Camp. What are Big Dog's plans for 2021?
Yeah, all of that, I guess. I've been roped into all of that somehow.
Russell Allen's here. So, hey, Russell. He said Marvel DC, never heard of them.
Yeah, and they're the small guys.
Well, the funny thing is, with what they're putting out and what they're turning, the readers that they're alienating and stuff, I see a lot of people that are just tired with them that are going to the indie scene.
You have
Kickstarters,
Marvel and DC have big problems, and it's not even just the content that they're producing. It's the simple fact that this stuff has existed in that format for 75 years. Right. These characters have done essentially all that they can do,
right,
without really honestly creating new things. But creating new things has never been, outside of the 90s, which is all the Image guys who were creating all this new stuff. Cable and Mr. Sinister and all this stuff was happening in the 90s. But now here we are, 30 odd years later, and we're just going back to the same things. It's just rehashing the same things because they're popular, which I get it. But there's not really a heavy let's create new things initiative.
Right.
There's always just, let's change it. Well, let's turn Iron Man into Ironheart. Let's turn Thor into the girl. Let's turn.
It's the Green Lantern syndrome.
Let's turn this into this. And yeah. And Green Lantern, weirdly enough, Green Lantern is the only one that ever worked. Every other switcheroo never really.
Well, you know why? Because it's a corpse. You know, it's like it's a military establishment.
It had that built into it.
Yep. Yeah, but when you're doing, like, I'm sorry, there's 50 Spider-Mans. I can't stand it. And when they did like the rainbow, coalition of Hulks, where there was like 50 colors of Hulk, I'm like, come on. But here's the other thing: Marvel and DC have scrapped continuity because they get a new writer every 6 to 12 issues
and they reset everything. Yeah,
and not just that, but they want to write these heroes the way they see them, as opposed to I mean, if you look at the heyday of comics when Claremont's on for 17 years, those characters naturally evolved because it was the same writer. Well, when you look at indie comics, you're writing Critter all 20 issues, and continuing. So the natural progression and the continuity is there because you are staying. You're not now shopping it out to somebody else to take over the story every 6 to 12 issues, revamping it. So I think that's really killing them. I mean, I know when you get to 1,000 issues, it's hard to pay someone to do all that research, but I miss the little yellow boxes, man.
That's where, exactly. And now you can't, those yellow boxes are impossible now. Impossible. It used to be like, hey, you're reading X-Men 300. This little thing is a nugget from X-Men 200. Go check it out. Like simple organic storytelling. And that's where you get indie comics. It's organic story. Not only is it organic storytelling, or at least theoretically it should be, but it's new stuff. It's a new character at the beginning of whatever journey that they're on.
Right.
And there aren't 300 issues to go worry about. So for those of you that are like, well, there's 1,000 issues of Action Comics, no one's asking you to buy 1,000 issues of Action Comics. When we started comics, the first X-Men book I bought was 210, the one where Storm and Cyclops fight for the
201.
201. So they fight for the X-Men leadership mantle. I didn't have anything prior to it. I just looked at it. There was 2 characters fighting. I was like, what is the X-Men? I dropped my 50 cents or whatever it was, and I took it home, and it was awesome. And then I kept reading from that point. This is the thing that people kind of lose track of with comics when they're trying to figure out, like, well, how do I read comics? It's easy. You just buy a comic and you read it.
Right.
Marvel and DC decided that rebooting was better, or resetting every now and then, because of the attrition rates of sales. Number ones will always sell so much of something more than issue 38. And so that's why you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, reboot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Reboot, and that's why it's happening. But we don't have to keep talking about these guys. But the difference between them and indies is that even when we do Critter Volume 2, it's still a direct storyline from what came in the first volume. So it's not a rebooting of what's happening. And then for us, we with Critter, she's up to issue 20. Well, we did a 4-issue miniseries, and then we're up to issue 21. So we've done 25 issues total. We have more coming next year. And then even for like Penny for Your Soul, which is our other book that's 10 years old, that was designed to be individual miniseries. But again, they all connected. It was miniseries 1 to miniseries 2 to miniseries 3, and it all connects. So there's no rebooting, there's no resetting of the universe, there's a resetting of the numbers, but that was just because we knew we couldn't run this book like 1 through 49. We wanted to take some time in between and really, give us some time to build up the world and the story and make sure it's done right. And in that regard, that's fine. But with the big companies, every time they do that, whatever the new thing is that comes out is rarely connected to what came before, because like you said, it's a new writer. They want to reset things and do it their own way.
The other thing is the hunger factor. I think, DC, Marvel, these guys, they're in control, not the artist or the writer anymore. But you guys are hungry, and there's a passion for what you're doing.
Sure.
That's your daughter right behind you. That's your creation. That's your child. That's your love. That's your passion. And knowing, one, that you have the right to do what you want with her, the character, and that it will always be your character, is big. But yeah, I mean, you have a passion for what you're doing, and that will show in the content that I think gets lost when it's big corporation.
Well, yeah, and I would hope that's from anybody. I mean, every time somebody makes something, whatever it is, a piece of them should be going into it,
right,
in some capacity. So,
and we mean this figuratively, people. Nothing crazy going on.
Yeah, there's no blood in the ink or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah,
he doesn't have any inflatable dolls.
Right. It should just be you're writing this or you're drawing this or whatever because you want to, because you've chosen to do it. Even in the context of freelancers, if they're going to be like, well, I'm going to draw this cover for Big Dog, they've chosen to draw the cover for Big Dog. There's no one putting the screws to them saying like, you have to do this and blah, blah, blah. They've made the decision. Okay, I want to draw the cat girl. I'm going to do it this way. They're making those decisions. So even in the freelance world, it's still a piece of yourself goes into whatever it is that you're drawing or writing or whatever. And that comes through a lot more than what you get in sort of the licensed, we'll call it the licensed comics world, which is Marvel and DC, because everything there is licensed to the hilt for toys and movies and video games and whatever. So everything kind of has to go through a licensing filter before it can officially make it to the page.
Right. By the way, we have some hellos. Trish said hello all.
What's up, Trish?
Phil had said, oh crap, Jim is here. Show's over now. Jack had said that in his opinion, indie comics have surpassed Marvel and DC for years. I probably agree with that. And Steve has a question for you. Steve's an animator, by the way. He did The Iron Giant and some other movies.
Oh, cool.
Hi, Tom. Always inspiring to hear indie success stories. When you were starting with your very first publishing ventures, what were your biggest mistakes you made when jumping into the fire?
This is going to be weird, and it's going to sound arrogant, but I'm not sure that we made too many mistakes because we took our time. And I think that was a huge, huge advantage to us. There's so many people that come in and want to just be diving in and want to be Marvel and be Image. Like, I'm going to come out, I'm going to be doing this monthly. We're going to, and then they find out that it's like a crap ton of work and it doesn't work. When we started, I knew immediately that I had no heavy infrastructure. It was basically me and my wife, and there was no big company behind us. So we put out our books every 2 months, right from the get-go. And I think that helped us in the long run because the way that the system works, which is kind of weird, but kind of the only way you can do it, is you put an order in for the book and it comes out 2 months later. And there's a big catalog called Diamond Previews where the retailers order their books. Right. So when people ordered Penny for Your Soul #1 and they didn't know what it was, and then they got it 2 months later and it sold out, they hadn't bought issue 2 yet. Issue 2 was currently in that catalog while Penny #1 was selling. Right. And so our attrition rates from 1 to 2 was almost zero because people were seeing the sales on the rack. And they were like, oh, this book that no one's heard of is selling. So we have to buy #2 now. And, we're going to buy a good quantity because we see the book is selling. So that was one of the examples of things we did right. As far as things that we did wrong, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I really think that we kind of did everything as well as we possibly could. There were things that we didn't do to maximize, like we were not in the variant market right from the get-go. That was kind of a slow thing for us to kind of latch on to. There wasn't really a reason for it. It just kind of was not in my head to do it. We were actually approached by somebody else to kind of start that, and I was like, okay, well, let's do that. But when we did conventions, that was probably double-edged. So I was a big convention guy. I went to conventions all the time. And I knew that I had to get to conventions to help bolster this brand that no one had heard of. So one of the things that we did that was definitely it wasn't really a mistake, but it wasn't done right. Again, we didn't have the variants or anything to help us. Is we started doing a ton of conventions, and not just local. Like I was in California at the time, and I was going to Baltimore. I was going to Heroescon in North Carolina. I was going to MegaCon in Florida. Like I was flying multiple times during the year, and that's a crap ton of money to be spending when you have essentially 2 issues of a comic book to travel with and try and recoup your costs.
Right.
So in that regard, I think the fast expansion like that was probably a mistake because we hemorrhaged a lot of money early, which has kind of slowed us down. But at the same time, the risk that we took and the results that we got, which was, hey, thousands upon thousands of people got to see us very, very quickly early on.
Well,
that was also kind of the plus
business,
side.
Though. In any business, you have to invest some money in the beginning. So it's really what you were doing.
There might have been, but like he's asking about mistakes. So there might have been a better way, like maybe focused more on all of the local places before I went to East Coast. But I was very gung ho, and like we talked about, you have to drive. I was very gung ho, like let's go to Baltimore, let's go to these places that I've heard of these great shows, and because I'd never been to them either. And so we were taking some big risks in that regard. But I think in that, because the product that we had spoke for itself, nobody knew who I was or Big Dog Inc. or anything was, but because we could take the product and be like, there it is, and people could actually look at it and see it versus hear about it on the internet. But this, again, 10 years ago, I mean, this was, the internet is not like it is now.
Right.
It was there, we used it, but it's not like it is now.
Wasn't as interactive as it is now.
Not even close. Even close. So, to be able to just slap it in their hand, and then they can take that book and go to their comic book store and say, yo, I found this at MegaCon. Can you get this for me? Again, that kept our sales numbers up. So kind of a plus minus situation with that.
So what do you think is the key to your longevity? I mean, as an indie publisher, it's an uphill battle coming out of the gate. And here you are 10 years later, you're successful. You've got a good following. You're getting people that are, jumping on the big dog, publishing, name. What do you think is the key to this longevity?
It's 3 things probably. Number one, first and foremost of everything, is design. Design of everything matters because you're going to put it on your banners. You're going to put logos on your books.
Yep.
Everything from a visual standpoint matters. And that is the design of the characters. That is the design of the world. That is the actual art that you put on the books itself. Almost more important than the design, because good art can save weak design. But in the long run, you need good.
The writing wasn't good, but the art was fantastic. So
exactly. And so that's the second part, is when people did actually read the books and they were like, well, the cover's cool, but what's the inside? People, I mean, again, I don't want to sound arrogant, but basically people liked what I wrote. Regardless of which book they were buying, they were coming back for more. And so clearly whatever story I was writing or whatever character was being presented, that was attractive enough for them to come back for issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, whatever. That, I guess, you just have to chalk up to a combination of talent and luck. I mean, I'm not ever going to tell you I'm a talented writer. I mean, I was basically flunking English, when I was in high school. I didn't read the books. Like I was like, just give me my D so I can go home. I don't care.
Shakespeare, man.
Yeah, I know. And so definitely luck. But I think because comics have been in my life essentially my entire life, I can't think of a time when I didn't have comics in my life, because they came in around, when I was probably like 7 or 8 or, something like that. Flash forward 40 odd years, comics are just in my blood. And so when I started to do it, everything that I did was osmosis from what I had seen in comics. Like, I don't know what a script is. I'm just going to start writing and figure this out. But from the pacing of a comic, which is very difficult, to transitions from scene to scene, to what's on this side of the page, to what's on that side of the page, all of that creates drama in a comic book. And you don't get the advantage like a movie does of an actor talking. You don't get the advantage of the music building up.
Right.
And so you have to do all of this visually while someone's reading words. And so it's not an easy thing to do. And that's just something that everybody thinks that writing the comics is easy. And it's like, oh my God, guys, no. Bro, I mean, technically, yes. Anyone can write a comic, anyone can write a book. But to understand the nuances of comics is a completely different thing. And so I think because I was so engrossed in comics for so long, that osmosis just kind of seeped in. And then obviously this book, Critter Volume 1, is not at the level of Critter Volume 5. I mean, and nor should it be, because exactly, nor should it be. But it is still good enough now, even 10 years later, that people read it and they're like, okay, give me Volume 2. So it works and it grows. And I think the more that people get involved in BDI and they watch the growth curve of writing, of character, and of art, it's an immediate attraction to watch it all kind of happening.
So what is the you said there were 3 things.
Oh, the 3 thing is don't be a dick. Yeah, as a creator, especially if you're at like Comic Cons and stuff, just be open to the people that are there. I mean, I even have people come up and criticize the stuff that I do, and they're like, yeah, I don't like that book. And I'm like, well, that's why I do 11 books, dude. There's something here for you. Look around. There's a Western, there's a horror, there's a sci-fi, there's a superhero. Something here is for you. You don't have to like everything that I do. But yeah, just be open to it. Be open to critique, be open to people's interests and why they like something. I'm only buying that because of the cover. Well, okay, but you know what? You bought it. So I still won, but don't gloat and don't be, well, no, you need to read the book. I'm going to tear that cover off so that you can't take the cover. Like, just don't be a dick. I mean,
go out of it.
Yeah. Just go and have fun. Just go in there and have a good time. Because if you're having a good time, the people around you, both at the booth and who are coming up to the booth, hopefully, will get sucked into that fun energy, and that'll open the doors for you to be able to say, so what do you like? Let me find something for you to take home.
Your guys are all messing with you too. Like Jim was saying, give him the D so he can go home. Just take the turn. Mike James said, just odd thoughts. Just so you know, Mike James, that's all we have here is odd thoughts. So you fit right in.
For sure, yeah.
Marvel and DC have mostly male leading heroes, where a number of indie books have female leads. Do you think this is just changing times?
No, indie books is weird. DC has often had leading women, Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Power Girl. They've had far more leading women books than Marvel had for a long time. Marvel's changed that up now, but back in the day, like when Silver Sable got a book, it was like, what? Silver Sable has a book? What is that? How does that happen? Usually the women were like Storm and they were leading the X-Men, but it wasn't like her own book. So Marvel and DC have kind of changed that over time. But I think but I mean, even if you go back to the 80s, there was like the book Whisper with the girl ninja and stuff. So I think indie guys, even going way, way back, have always kind of tuned into the fact that women characters aren't getting the press that that the main guys were getting, or that Marvel and DC weren't giving to their own characters. And so it was sort of like one of those doors to open. Like, there's got to be people that want women characters, right? So let's open the door and see what happens. Now, part of that flood, of course, was just the over-sexualized stuff. A lot of underground, like really underground things that were, super sexualized and so on. And then in the 90s, everything became women wearing like straps and whatever. But that was just an artistic shift in that period of time. But I think that the indie guys have mostly realized that their characters can double up for them in that regard, because you can have a strong female character doing something while also being able to do really nice art for the covers that you can't really do with like Wolverine or Superman or whatever. I mean, it just doesn't translate, folks. I'm sorry. You know,
bikini, not my thing now.
yeah, but I mean, even just like women you can take and put into any situation, whether it's a pinup sexy situation, whether it's a power I'm fighting situation, or whether it's an emotional, like I'm caring for you situation. And in all three, when you do the art properly, it all works.
Right.
The male characters really are limited to, look at my muscles, this is what I've got. And it's very rare that you get anything else out of those guys. And that's because that's what they're designed to be. They're male power fantasies. And they're not to say that they're limited characters, because obviously when you go inside, you're reading the books, they do things that are, good for humanity and so on. But from just selling a cover, it's always hyper aggressive male. Mm-hmm. But with the women, it kind of flips the coin, and it's like we do the sexy cheesecake stuff and the poses. But you can also do powerful women poses. Like you can do the Superman poses and the Wolverine poses with women, and it still works. Right. So they're far more versatile to me from a character standpoint for what they can do. I don't know. That's. I mean, I grew up reading Wonder Woman, and we're talking about the original like 70s and 80s Wonder Woman, and going back and reading that stuff. Man, was that some feminist stuff going on in there. But for me, as like a 10-year-old kid, that's all way over my head. But clearly, all of that stuff was kind of sinking in to my brain because I was reading all this stuff. And so for me, women in power was never like, I was like, yeah, okay, they can be superheroes. You've got Wonder Woman, you've got the backup stories with the Huntress, it's what you got. There's bad guys like the Cheetah. It's like women in power is like, whatever, who cares? Let's do this. Show me what can happen. And so for me, it was an easy decision to just be like, well, let's make, whatever. I mean, I grew up with superheroes, so it was easy for me to be like, my first book is going to be a superhero book. Critter just came from, I can show you guys this. Critter just came from me originally wanting to be an artist, and that just completely fell apart. But as I was drawing her, I was writing stories about her to kind of, because I liked character design and costume design and stuff. And so as the design changed, I would rewrite the story in my head and so on. And so eventually, it became what it is now 10 years later. But that's the original Critter drawing that I did in the back of business class in 1992. Yeah.
See, you're talented.
No, that's I'm not.
I mean, if you ever want to,
and that's why I came to this. I came to the season. I was like, I'm not going to be able to draw a comic, so I fell into the writing side, and I had to figure all of that out, how it works, but it was easy. I mean, when we did this, when I was doing Penny for Your Soul, I knew I was going to have like Jesus and Lucifer as the big bads, quote unquote bads of heaven and hell, right? So what's the sort of flip to that coin? We need to have a female as our lead to kind of counteract the male aggressive side. So that's where we came up with Danica and on and on and on and on with these characters. In some cases, obviously, like with Legend of Oz, Dorothy just came with the package. I'm doing an Oz book, I get Dorothy Gale. Right. I do a Marie Antoinette book, I get Marie Antoinette, because that's just what they are. But yeah, it's just been the way that it is for me. There are definitely some characters that I have on the male side that people really like too, like Paradox, this time travel guy from Critter. People really like Paradox. There's some other background characters that I have that people are like, dude, you should do like a book with them. And I'm like, I don't want to, because I want their story to be a part of the main story. I mean, obviously every character can shoot off and do something else.
You also don't want to oversaturate right now. You're trying to build Critter instead of thinning everything out.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, Dylan Guzman said, what the F? I know I'm late, but no one told me Phil had Steven Seagal as a guest. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so let's get into Critter. I
Sure.
mean, give us the pitch. Tell us, why should we be reading Critter? What is it about? Should
Because
we
I wrote it.
show us?
That's it. I wrote it. Just buy it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You don't need. Don't worry about it.
So what's it about?
Critter came from my love of superheroes. I mean, like I said, I grew up with superheroes, so it was natural for me to write a superhero book when I started doing this. But I am very anti real superheroes, like trying to take superheroes and put them in the real world, like
Good.
heavily in the real world. Like, I don't care if they have like an iPhone or whatever, that's fine. But when you're starting to talk about how, oh, superheroes, if you were a superhero, you'd wear armor and you'd be covered. It's just like, that's dumb. That doesn't look good. Like, if Batman wants to wear armor, that's fine. I don't care. But I come from the school of the 70s and 80s. And so when we did our character designs, it was, it was spandex and it was color and it was fun.
Right. It was fantastical. It was supposed to be fake.
Exactly. And so we designed Critter to be, and I had no idea how great this costume was going to end up looking. I mean, it looks really cool on the page, but when somebody actually cosplays it, it's like, what? How good does this look?
Your character cosplay. That must be like,
oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, especially Critter. We've had a few people do Critter, and it just looks incredible. And I couldn't be more excited about it. But I wanted to do a fun superhero series, throwback to like 70s, 80s style storytelling. Secret identities, utility belts, fantasy costumes. There's secret. There's I have to look at my back. There's guest stars. So I actually have guest stars in the book from other comic creators that do their own characters. They're in the book because I was like, let's just have some fun, guys, and let's put your characters in there so that we link this into one big, thing. But basically, she is a character from Michigan. She's got strength and speed as her sort of physical powers. She gets recruited by a team out on the West Coast. This is the team right there. She finds out that this was the team that her mother was a part of. She goes through, I don't want to give all the spoilers, but she finds out her mother was a superhero. This is kind of the origin story that we did.
Right.
And she goes out to California with this team to kind of find her place in the larger superhero universe. The ears and the tail belonged to her mom, so she wears the ears and the tail as sort of an homage to her mom. But the tail is attached to the belt with the belt buckle that has a little bit of artificial intelligence in it. So if she's up here fighting and something's behind her she doesn't know about, the tail can actually act on its own and sort of help protect her from, whatever else is happening. So, there's kind of a lot going on. And then there's all the other characters kind of start to fill in all the gaps. You've got Paradox, who is a time traveler from the future, who's come back to watch her basically fulfill her destiny, as he says. And on and on and on and on and on and on. And it does actually cross over with Penny for Your Soul. They do exist in the same universe. Okay. So there is that as well. We did a crossover, 2-issue crossover with Critter and Penny in issue 7 and 8 of the ongoing series. And then just recently, the Penny for Your Soul most recent volume touched back on that story. So it is clearly still a big ball of clay that's all, being worked on together, which is a lot of fun. Because people are like, yeah, I don't know, I don't understand what this is. And I'm like, well, that's because you didn't read Critter. You didn't read the little yellow box and go figure out where this all came from. Because we do that in here. We do the yellow boxes and
that's cool.
Tell people where to go to find the find out whatever it is they missed.
Man, I missed that. So you said you're up to issue 24 on Critter?
21 of the ongoing series. Okay. And then we did 5 issues of like a mini series to start it. So there are 26 issues total.
If someone wants to pick the entire collection up, where would they go?
Yeah, go to bigdoginc.com. All of the trade paperbacks are there. Well, the first 4 are there. Volume 5 is not put together as a big book yet. It will be coming, but you can still get the things. And we do them on when we do Kickstarters, of course. We have big catch-up rewards where it's like just get all the books and whatever. So yeah, but you can start with the first 4 very, very easily, right from bigdoginc.com. Same with all of the books that we have. Just go into the store, click the comic button. It'll break down into title, and then just click on the title you want to look at, and you can see trade paperbacks, variant covers,
Awesome.
whatever we've got. Super easy.
That's awesome. And you just had a Kickstarter not too long ago. You have another campaign coming up?
It's running right now. Yeah, we've got we've got like 10 days left. It's for Ursa Minor. Yep.
Oh no, I know for Ursa Minor. I mean for Critter. Is there anything?
Critter. Yeah, we did a 10-year anniversary hardcover that is about to ship in about, I don't know, a month-ish. So Critter 22, going back to single issues, that'll be happening in March, which will be right after we do our Legend of Oz in January, because next year is the Legend of Oz 10-year anniversary. So we'll be focusing very heavily on Oz next year, while sprinkling in Critter, potentially another kaiju, maybe another Princess versus Zombies, and so on.
Dell had a few questions. He was asking if this was Earth in this universe, and is the universe heroes? Are they the norm? Are they aliens from other planets? What are they mutants? What is the?
Yeah, it's both. I mean, we don't really name them as mutants, but yeah, there are people just from Earth that have powers, however they got them. Whether you got bit by the spider or you were born with it, whatever. There are heroes, kind of around the planet. In fact, when you get to issue 15, and we have this big buildup to this huge fight with this sea monster called Tidepool. Again, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but there's a scene from basically around the country, New York, Florida, Texas, California, and it's kind of broken into these sections where all these heroes are at, and it just shows the vast, universe that's been built. Now, a lot of these characters first appeared in this scene. So it's like, here's all these Texas heroes that are fighting, Tidepool down here. Here's all these Florida style heroes that are over here, and so on. So a lot of those guys are first timers, but the point was to show that there is a lot of super stuff happening. And that's kind of the point of Critters. Like, here's this one character who kind of walks out of her life and steps into something huge and beyond anyone's capacity to really just be like, oh my God, I'm in it. And it's she's got to figure out her place in all of this, while at the same time having Paradox being like, no, you can't do it that way, because you're supposed to do it that way, because this is what history tells us happens. Right. So sometimes you have kind of butting heads with what's supposed to happen and what she either wants to do or is sort of coerced to do. Again, I don't want to throw spoilers out.
Raphael said, who did you Jack first? Paradox is a better version of Uatu the Watcher from Marvel.
Yeah, kind of. He is in a small sense, he is like the Watcher, because he comes back and he tells everybody that he can't do anything. He's just there to check it out. Impartial. But he definitely gets involved. Again, no spoilers.
Raphael said that Yellow Boxes, and that he does own some Big Dog comics.
Awesome.
So you got Critter, we're going to get into a couple of the titles in depth. The other book, oh my God, I don't know why I'm losing it today. I need some sleep, man.
Penny for Your Soul.
Thank you. Penny for Your Soul. Tell us about that. And if you want to show the books, please go ahead. Show, without spoilers.
I have some around here. I don't have everything. We did just do a Penny for Your Soul Showgirls tribute book that just came out. It was Showgirls' 25th anniversary this year, which happened to coincide with our 10-year anniversary. So I was like, we got to do something ridiculous to play with this. So like, there's the scene with the fingers, So the entire book is basically pinup homages directly from the movie, but using our Penny for Your Soul characters. Gotcha. So it's really, really fun. And the backers, I actually started packing today. So if you were a backer for that from a few weeks ago, those are going to be shipping out this weekend. So keep your eyes open for your Penny Showgirl books. But basically what it is, it's a demon, Danica, decides she wants to get in on the end of days battle between heaven and hell. So she sets herself up in Las Vegas with a hotel and casino and offers to buy her patron souls for $10,000. And heaven and hell, of course, start taking notice of the missing souls and come looking. And that's what kicks the whole thing off. And we've now done 4 volumes plus a spin-off with Joan of Arc. We put Joan of Arc in the universe as sort of a steampunk angel style character. She's become super popular. She is now currently the protector of the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, all that kind of stuff. And she's super fun. So yeah. and we have the next volume is planned. I don't know if we're going to get to it next year. It'll probably be 2022, but it is called Mary Magdalene's Seven Demons, and that'll be the next volume.
Man, how are you managing all this stuff? That's crazy.
Well, I mean, right now it's a little easier because we only do these campaigns like quarterly, which that's the only way that I can do it, because I don't have the infrastructure that I used to have when I was still married, and we had guys coming in and helping with shipping and everything. So part of my year next year will be building infrastructure so that I can have more time to create, so that all of the creative side will move faster, so all of the fulfillment side will move faster, everything will move faster. But I just need people to do that. The trick is finding people that you trust to do it, and because basically you're putting your livelihood in their hands. Also, the fact that I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere, Michigan right now, doesn't help, because I can't really. I know a lot of people that would want to help, but they're not anywhere near me. So one of the things that I have to do is shipping and fulfillment. I think I've got that part figured out. That has been moved out to Arizona, and I think that's going to work. And if it does, that's a huge weight off of my shoulders.
Sure.
But I do my live shows on the Comic Book Shopping Network every week. I'm shipping out 50 to 100 packages myself every week just because of that live show. Nice. It's crazy. There's a lot going on. But I need people to help me run campaigns, so again I can focus on creativity and just moving everything forward like we used to do. We used to put out 3 to 5 books a month back in the day.
Wow.
And that was because we had enough happening with other people that I could just be sitting and writing basically every single day, and just be pumping them out, and I could focus on the art direction and the covers, and everything creative was me, and then everything else was other people. So I need to get it back to that.
Right. Well, I mean, distribution is the key. I mean, and it's a lot. Like I'm helping Billy Tucci with his fulfillment now, with thousands of books. It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Holy God. And it's not just a lot of work. I mean, depending on how you structured your Kickstarter, are you charging shipping or not? So shipping is expensive.
Yep.
Supplies are expensive.
Yep.
People think that they see what's pledged to your book and like, oh, he's racking in dough. No, my overhead is a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're lucky you walk away with some money sometimes. You might, you're barely breaking even, or you're just making a small profit for yourself. And look, you need to live. You're doing this. You're trying to do this for a living. You have to have a surplus.
Yeah, this is not a situation where every time we do $20,000 on a campaign, $20,000 or even $15,000 is going in my pocket. We're not buying boats over here, guys. That's just that's not happening. Trust me, it's not happening.
That's true. I mean, shipping and with the way shipping is working too, depending on the package, whatever they got as a tier, you can't send it media mail. You have to send it, UPS ground or whatever. It gets expensive. And then again, you're buying tape and boxes and Geminis and bubble wrap and everything. So I get it. I commend you. It is hard. And then on top of just having to manage a fulfillment, you're the editor, the publisher, the distribution, fulfillment. That's a lot of work, man. I mean, and when you're
it doesn't work that way, and that's why we've gotten behind on these things. And I appreciate the people that have stuck with us, because they kind of know it's just Tom, and they're like, it might be late, but it's gonna get here. We've never not fulfilled anything. We've been a few months late. We've been 6 months late. I once had a printer drop out on me, and I was like, well, God damn. That's I got to go find a printer now. So, things happen. But when there's more people involved, everything can move smoother. So that is my goal in 2021 to, kind of smooth everything out now, because I know how it all works. Now I just have to put the right people in place to take the loads off of me.
That's the other thing people don't realize. It's not about getting bodies. You have to get competent, trustworthy people to do work. I mean, you can't have a ton of fulfillment errors, and then you're getting all this backlash, and this affects your product. This affects your brand. Yep. So, Tom, tell Philip about your. Okay. Tom, tell Philip about your AT-AT house fantasy. You want to live in an AT-AT?
The fantasy is to own 5 AT-ATs. Yeah, we had a talk about The Empire Strikes Back the other day, where again we were talking about movies and how mentally we're trained to know that there were 3 AT-ATs on Hoth,
right?
Attacking the rebels. But when the widescreen version came out, all of a sudden there's 5.
Right.
There's 2 on the very edges. And so when I was collecting Star Wars toys as a kid, I always wanted 3 AT-ATs. I never got 3. I had 1.
Yeah,
and then when Hasbro put the toys back out again and they make the AT-ATs again, I had 3. I was like, yeah. And then I saw the widescreen stuff, and there were 2 more AT-ATs. I was like, damn it. I need 2 more AT-ATs, and I need a chicken walker who comes through for one scene too. I was like, oh my God.
I saw an AT-AT bunk bed that was freaking awesome. I got to tell you, it was amazing. Oh my God, look who is here. He's alive. Holy shit. He's one of the Rogues Gallery. Dan Lee is in the house. He's got an indie book coming out soon enough. He's a great guy. He's a mess, but he's a great guy. No, anyway, he's a good guy. Werebear. You had me at Werebear.
Usually that's the case, yeah.
Yeah, you had me at Werebear. So let's talk about it. You got it going on. What do you got, 10 days left?
Roughly 10 days left, yeah. Ursa Minor. This will be the final issue of the volume 2 that we never completed because we went over to Aspen and all of our production shut down. So this will wrap up volume 2, but it is an issue that you can read all by itself, and you will kind of have a working knowledge of what's going on. Then you can work your way forward or backwards, however you want to do it. Right. But there is a tier in there where you just click it one time and you will get all of it together.
Sweet.
So super easy. It's one of the easier books to get into because, again, we've only done the 2 volumes versus the 4 and 5 of like Penny and Critter and Oz. So very easy. So if you like horror, specifically if you like sort of like 70s and 80s style horror, it's all the blood, claws, and fangs that we love. It is none of the angsty, sparkly things that we don't love. It is Naomi. She is the last of the Werebears. 2013 presidential election. Werewolves show up, assassinate the president on national TV. It sets off a sort of a wolf hunt, like the old witch trial days.
Yeah.
And the vampires realize that they're just going to get stuck in this big hunt, so they out themselves voluntarily and say, "Look, we'll take care of this werewolf problem. Just leave us out of it." So the agreement is made. The vampires go out, wipe out all of the werebears first. I won't tell you why. That's part of the story. And that's kind of what kicks the whole thing off. So Naomi is the last of the werebears. Every night, she and her friends go out and try and knock off some vampires, but they realize that in the end, killing a couple of vampires doesn't mean anything because they just go bite a couple more and make more vampires. So they have to go about figuring out how to kill vampires in bulk. And that is kind of the underlying theme of the entire book as we go forward.
Very nice. Guys, 10 days left.
Yeah.
You know what?
There's some great cover artists, very great variants, or you can just get the regular book for $9.
$9. That's cheap. Wow.
And that includes your shipping.
Tell somebody, one of your friends, to put the link to the campaign in the chat for us.
I can do that.
Okay. So go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Any links you want to put in the chat, please do, for everything. See, that I wasn't aware of Ursa Minor, but it's on my radar now. I'm going to actually check that out because I love werewolves, but I love when they went into were-tigers and were-bears. And,
sure.
You can't go wrong with that. That's just me loving monsters since I was a kid. Godzilla, like we said before, and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I always love when people write vampires the way they should be written, because they've been written so many different ways that they've lost what vampires were supposed to be, or at least the cool vampires that I remember. You know what I mean? Like everything, the twinkling ones. So
everything changes. Even Frankenstein has been.
Thanks, Mike.
Even Frankenstein, and I think the only one that really hasn't changed is Creature from the Black Lagoon. But that dude only got 3 movies, and then he was forgotten. But everything goes through. And we actually had this conversation the other day too with somebody else. Like when you do things like Twilight and things like Warm Bodies for the zombie genre, they're crap. They're crap. But what they do is they bring people into the genre through a door that didn't exist before. So they might be Twilight fans, but they might come out of that being like, okay, what other vampire stuff is there? And then maybe they go find Underworld, and then maybe they go find The Howling, or whatever it is that they find. So while the I don't know, we'll call us the purists, are going to be like, this is some crap. Ultimately, it serves a purpose,
True.
assuming that those people will take another step forward and be like, okay, what else is there?
Right.
And that usually happens quite a bit. There's a huge resurgence in horror right now, horror movies and everything. So there has to be a reason for that, because a lot of this stuff is cyclical.
Right.
So there has to be a reason that all of a sudden people are back into horror in such a big way. I mean, even they're even trying to reboot Halloween, and trying to redo that, which those franchises, all of them, in the last decade have all stumbled heavily. And then you got to Halloween 2018, which was, I don't know if it was wildly successful, but it was successful.
It was okay.
And so there has to be a reason for that to be happening,
Right.
because it's not the movie itself, because the movie wasn't really that good, guys. It really wasn't. But there has to be a reason that people are suddenly like, I want that again.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is because we have an influx of people coming through the Twilight and the Warm Bodies and that type of,
right.
stuff.
It's an avenue from another genre area that they when they amalgamate it like that, they bring in the tween scene and stuff like that. Absolutely. By the way, speaking of inside jokes, where pandas, Dan. Long story short, Chris Campana, a friend of mine, I'm sure you know him, was on the show, and one of the questions I usually ask people is, artists, is what are some of the crazy commission requests you get? He was telling us it was an anime character fornicating with a panda bear was the request. So the running joke for us is panda bears and stuff. So, and of course they say me and panda bears, but it's like Vegas. What I do stays there.
Well, that's got to come from Ranma back in the day, when the boy would turn into the girl and the dude would turn into a panda, and that was some weird transgender stuff back in the manga world and the anime world back in the 90s.
Is Steph here? I didn't see him. Steph Wilson's in here. Usually he's cracking jokes.
He might be. I think he just ended his show a little while ago, so he might be floating around.
He had come on a few shows cracking jokes for a while, and then he disappeared.
That's what he does. That's his MO.
He's doing like 800 covers, so he's busy.
Yeah.
So you got all this going on. You're saying that your future, would trying to get a team going so you can do more fulfillment, get the books pushed out faster, which I think is fantastic. But you, like I said, we touched on it before. You have your Artist Alley shopping network. You also got the comic book shopping network, Comic Unity Online. Tell us about these other projects that you have going on.
Well, the Comic Book Shopping Network was created by Jesse James, Christione, and Jen King. It was their brainchild to create an online thing that was similar to the Home Shopping Network, but it was comics. Brilliant. And I was invited. I've known Jesse forever. He's been a supporter of ours forever. So once they kind of had it all in place, I was invited to come be a part of it last January, like a year, almost 2 years ago, January now. So I've been doing this live thing for nearly 2 years, well before the COVID thing happened.
Right.
And when I started doing it and I started seeing how this worked and how you can connect to your fan base, like as soon as you turn your phone on,
right.
I started thinking about this and telling my artist friends, I'm like, dude, you got to start doing this. Like, you're chasing money around the country here at these cons, but you're not getting booth comps. You're not getting hotel comps. Like, you're literally chasing money.
Months ago.
Yeah, which you can just kind of turn on your phone and get 90% of the same experience. A lot of them were kind of like, nah, it's not for me, because things were normal back then. But when we got to last summer, I talked to Jesse. I was like, Jesse, you've got all these retailers. You have a publisher, myself. Brian Polito's there now with Coffin, so we're the only two publishers that are there. You have a convention on there, amazing conventions, Hawaii and Las Vegas are there, but you're missing something. And he was like, what are you missing? I was like, you're missing the artists. There's no artists on this channel. And he was like, oh my God, yeah. And so I was like, so instead of putting them on the channel, why don't we make an Artist Alley shopping network as a sister group to the Comic Book Shopping Network? And he was like, yeah, man, do it. And so he set it up so it connected to his brand. And then he basically just was like, you do it. Go find people, go do whatever it is you're going to do and make it work. And so that one, the Artist Alley Shopping Network, has now been live for a little over a year. Nia Rufino was our guinea pig. She jumped in immediately. She understood exactly what we were trying to do. And Alfred Trujillo came along. I'm trying to think of how they all kind of came in. Steph Wilson came along. And now it's just grown. Now we've got like a dozen people. David Harrigan, Mog Park, Chris Enott, Ryan Kincaid, Jason Metcalf, Rob Hicks, Justin Hunt. Oh my God, I know I'm gonna forget people, but we've got a ton of people on there, and they are there basically. Jesse Wichman's there every other week. He splits week with Monty Moore, so they take the same day and time, but they alternate. And basically, these guys just come on, and you get an Artist Alley experience. It's them. Sometimes they're live drawing, sometimes they're selling prints, sometimes they're selling original
Jason
art.
Metcalf does well. He does very well, and he's religiously there every Monday.
Yeah.
11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
If you want a commission, go get a commission from them. They do a couple of commissions. It's a great experience. It's really great. And I talked to them, and I'm like, look, is this working? Do we need to change anything? They're like, no, this is working great. This is perfect. And it's been awesome. And I was thrilled to be able to be a part of the Comic Book Shopping Network and be able to create this thing for essentially the other segment of comic books. We have Vince Hernandez, who's a writer. He comes on occasional Saturdays and does his show as well. So it's open to, I don't want to say it's just like open to all creators, because you've got to be able to have enough content to be able to do a show every single week. So it's not like we want you to just come on and do a show and then be gone. So
and a little bit of a following. You have to have some resume. I mean,
not
to be a jerk, but unfortunately, if you're going to be carrying content, you're supposed to be bringing viewers in for the content to continue. That's just that's just the business. That's the way it goes.
That's it.
And then the point is, that's not for a selfish reason, because you're not making money off of this. It's the viewership is to help everyone that's on the network.
Right. And all the money that they make, they keep every dime. We get nothing.
Right. I think it's a wonderful thing. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to do it because you're doing it, but I had thought about it a long time ago, and then Jason showed it to me, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't know about this. I think it's a fantastic thing. I think it's wonderful, and so if people fitting the criteria, I know you vet, would they go to you for the Artist Alley? So just message you, DM you on Facebook.
Yep.
And you'll obviously have a conversation. What have you done? What are you published? What work do you have? Cool.
Yep.
And what with the comic book shopping network, dealing with dealers, and do you do local comic stores on there as well? I'm not local, but like comic shops and stuff like that, or
basically all of the dealers that are there are comic shops to some degree. I think there might be a couple that are like just online sellers versus brick and mortar. But there's a lot of brick and mortar guys that are. I mean, there's like almost 30 people doing this show now, or doing the group now. Nice. So it's crazy how fast it's grown. There's almost 5,000 people there. Even the members are vetted for Comic Book Shopping Network and Artist Alley Shopping Network. This isn't a situation where we're just like, we want 30,000 people in the room, right? Like, no,
we want quality.
Vetted people who are there to not jack around. We don't want them buying stuff and not paying for it. We don't,
of course,
we want vetted people. So you have to answer questions to get in. If you don't answer the 3 questions, you're not getting in. And
so Dell, you're out, man. Sorry, they said no weirdo.
And so,
Dan too.
And they're not difficult questions. They're basically like, are you going to be a dick? And
yeah, but who's going to own up to that though? Yeah, I'm going to be a dick. I'm going to be a major dick. I'm going to be a big boner. I'm going to be a major boner. Can I come on?
Oh man. But so far we've really had very few problems. There's only a handful of people on AASN.
Well, look, non-payers and people who screw around get called out real fast, and it's a small community on Facebook. Yeah. So a lot of the smart people know to keep their stuff straight. So Dan just flipped me the middle finger. Like, you're the first person to say that to me, please. If I had $1 for every time that finger went up at me, I'd be retired. We don't want questions. So we don't want stinking questions. No, I think it's a fantastic thing. I think what you're doing, you're building this whole section of community that is needed. And I personally think even when things lift and shows are back on, we've set a new trend, especially for promoters. Speaking as a promoter,
yeah,
I don't know if
sure.
I'm going to do it, but it could be a nice supplement to a physical con. For those who are out of state and can't come to your show, let's have an online portion of it.
We've actually already had conventions come talking to us about bring CBSN to the thing. We'll give you a booth. You can do whatever you do there. We already this is already planned. Everything you just talked about, it's already in the works.
Nice.
So if you are interested in doing that with us whenever the cons come back, just shoot me a message,
yeah, we'll talk. Sure.
and we can make that happen. We already have this. It is a 100% already planned. Now we just need to take it and be like, look, this is the plan. This is what we need. It's very simple. This is how it will work. This is how it will benefit you. It's all there. And now we just need the cons to come back, and we can start to branch this out across the country.
Yeah, Mike was saying, Tom, you should have new artists draw Danica to show you their work and then send it to me just to be cool. I am willing to receive lots of originals.
Send all samples to Mike Bengston.
Smart man, exactly. Smart man. I think it's fantastic. So again, let's plug what you have coming up. You were talking about Oz, and you're welcome to tell us about the story of Oz as well.
Sure. So basically, right now there's two things left for the year. So there's the Ursa Minor Kickstarter that's happening right now. You guys can get in on that. There are exclusive books there. So if you don't get them during the campaign, that's it. They're gone. You can't come crying to me that you didn't know, because I see you in the I see you in the thread. I know who's here. But yeah, we got about 10 days left. We are going to be unveiling a Paolo Pantalena variant cover on Saturday.
Nice. I love his art. I have him on a jam. I have him on one of my jams.
It's so good. This is his first cover for us in like 6 years. Super excited to have him back. It's so beautiful. So Paolo on Saturday, we'll be doing an add-on variant for him. A few days after the campaign ends, we will be doing another one of our days. Like we had Goth Day, we had Bikini Day. We have Princess Day on November 18th. It is officially National Princess Day. So we will have a set of covers available on Princess Day, November 18th, done by Brian Peterson, colors by Ceci Dela Cruz. This is a set of covers done in a way that has never been done before. We have looked into this to try and find anything that would be anywhere close, and none of us can find it. So we think we have a first time thing. And I mean, Brian is an amazing artist. If you guys don't know Brian Peterson, go look him up. He is part of the campaign also. He did the Lost Girl Vampire Bride that is sort of a 80s homage to the Lost Boys. That's his art. He dove into this concept big time. And I don't really want to spoil what it is. I want people to see it and kind of just like have their jaws hit the floor, because he did such a great job on the whole set.
Got me curious.
Yeah. And so we'll start teasing it soon, because it's only like a couple weeks away. But we're not going to like really reveal how it works yet. It's really cool. He did a fantastic job, and he's now working with us on some other things, covers, some background projects that we're not talking about yet. But we're keeping him very, very busy, because his stuff is ridiculously cool. So Ursa Minor and then Princess Day is basically the rest of this year. And then when we get to January, we should be shipping the Ursa Minor books. That is our goal, assuming all dominoes fall properly.
Right.
And we'll be shipping that right as we are launching Legend of Oz: The Wicked West, which is the 10-year anniversary for that book next year. It is a Western reimagining of The Wizard of Oz. So instead of ruby slippers, Dorothy's got ruby spurs, ruby bullets, Toto's her horse.
Nice.
It has been a hugely popular book for us. We get invited to a convention. It's not a convention. It's like a festival, an Oz festival, every year in New York, called Ozstravaganza. We've been there now for, this year would have been 8 straight years. So hopefully we can get back for the anniversary next year. But they always bring us up. It's been an amazing experience to be around all the Oz fans who are both very engaged in what we do and very nose snubbing at what we do, because it's not their Oz. But the fun part,
you know what though? Those are the people that give you the best marketing, because they're complaining to everybody. Now they pique curiosity with everybody else.
That's correct. And the fact that we've been there for 8 years, the people that have been like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah. 8 years later, they're like, dude, this guy's still here. What is going on? Let me look at what this is, because clearly he matters in some capacity.
Right.
And that's when you get them. And you're like, okay, that's when you can talk to them. Like, look, I realize this is not your Oz, but it is based on everything that you know from the Baum books, with a little bit of twists here and there, so on and so on. They open the book, they read it, they listen to you, they talk to you. You're not a dick to them. Remember, let's bring that back. And suddenly they're like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, clearly he's read the books. Clearly this information is in this thing that he's making, whatever it is. And so you get them to buy it, and then they come back the next day and they're like, I get it. Give me the rest of them. And
Nice.
you've converted those purists over. And that's happened time and time again. So that's really fun.
That's another trick too. If you're at a 4-day con and you can convince them to buy issue number 1 on the first day,
oh, dude, that's
they come back and they buy the rest of the series for the weekend. Yeah,
yep. That's
you just got to hook them on that first issue.
That's why you've got to be the first day of the con is hustle day, man. I mean, you got to hustle all of it, but if you can get them to take a book home in day 1, chances are you're going to get more sales the rest of the weekend. So day 1, Friday or Saturday, if it's a 2-day show, man, you need to be off your ass. You need to be talking to people. You need to be shoving books in their faces, being like, hey, what do you think of this? Let's go. Take this home with you. You know, buy a book. You're going to go stand in line for somebody for 2 hours. Take a book with you and, you know, read it while you're in line. And then they come back. Hey, I was in line. I got my autograph. I need book 2. Let's make this happen. Super important is that first day.
Mark said he's got to go. Have a good night. He's going to do some drawing, live drawing. Take it easy, Mark. Thanks for coming out.
See you, man.
We will talk. So Mark is going to be on soon as well to plug Hellbringers and things like that. So Keith wants to know, can we order your books through Previews catalog also?
Nope. We are not distributed through Diamond anymore. That's not to say we won't be in the future. It's not that we've been kicked out. I just have made the decision to not do it. So everything that you get, Keith, comes directly from Big Dog Inc. Unless you are part of the store. There are stores that we deal with directly. Creative Comics in Indiana, Jesse James Comics, Arizona, Comics and More.
I know Jesse James. I've been there.
Yeah, Chris Brown, Comics and More in Detroit. So there's a lot of stores that we do deal direct with. So you can get us in stores, but very select, you know.
Well, Keith is in Cincinnati, so you got to order straight through him because I don't think he's getting any comic stores over there right now.
Yeah, no. Isn't there a place called Red Rooster or something down there? Maybe that's...
Don't worry, Jack. I promise I'll make sure he does. Jack is telling you to plug the Patreon, which I was going to get to as well.
It's floating across the bottom.
Yeah, but talk about it. Yeah. Tell us about Patreon.
Sure. So Patreon, guys, is basically a subscription site. For us, there's 2 levels. There's a $5 level. There's a $10 level. So for as little as $5 a month, you're going to get every post that there is. We do basically what it is it's a behind the scenes look at Big Dog Inc. So everything that we do, from design to logos to rough layout pages, inks, pencils, colors, all the way through the process, we post there so that people can see it before anybody else gets to see it. People have really dug on that, watching the process. So it's really great for people who are into the process. It's not just a matter of us being like, oh, there's the final cover. Like, they get to watch it happen from roughs to lines to inks to colors. Right. They're into the process. So if you like the process of seeing this stuff come together, it's going to be great for you. There's also stuff on there that's being posted that isn't being posted anywhere else. I am posting things that when I first started making comics, I was doing things that were going in the right direction, but for whatever reasons were cut off. They have never been seen by the public. And the Patreon gets to see those things from time to time as well, to kind of see the lost issues of Big Dog Inc., which is kind of fun. And then the other thing that we do is there is a web comic that is on hiatus right now, but it'll be back in December. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we release a web comic called Blue Jay, which is a new superhero series that is exclusive to Patreon. It is not published in any way, shape, or form anywhere else. So if you guys want to have some original web content, we have that as well. Now, the $10 level lets you actually get involved in the creation process. Occasionally, we will have voting for things. So like with Blue Jay, that's her superhero name, but she needed a real name. So we allowed the Patreon folks to choose her real name. So I gave them 5 names. And I was like, here's your 5 choices. Pick the one you want. So Chloe is our Blue Jay when she's just in her human. Nice. Obviously she's a human when she's in her civilian form. So yes, and we'll be doing more of that as we go forward. So that's the $10 levels. You get to actually be part of the creation process when we have those open, easy doors that we can monkey around with.
Cool. Keith just wanted to confirm. He just said yes. It's Rockin' Rooster.
Rockin' Rooster, yeah. Rockin' Rooster has been a supporter of ours for a while. They've talked to us a couple of times. I have no idea if they have any of our books. If they want them, they
Keith
are certainly
request it.
Yeah, just tell them. Just go in there and say, "Hey, do you have Big Dog Ink books?" And if they say no, then tell them that Tom mentioned them, and we can get books into them. I mean, we wholesale books all the time to retailers, so it's just a matter of them shooting us a message and saying, "What can we do?"
That's the key, guys. If you're really interested in these books and you want to see the indie scene thrive, and you are tired of the mainstream crap that's going on, we have to support guys like Tom. I mean, he's busting his ass. So you've got to tell your local comic shop that you are interested, because these guys, it's hard for a comic shop owner to order indie books because they have no idea if they're going to sell any.
Yeah.
And what are they going to order? 1 or 2, and then it sits on the shelf. 5, it sits on the shelf. But if they know there's an interest, at the very least of 2 to 4 people, they will order that amount for you. And then when they see it sells and you start talking to other people and they start talking to other people, it starts to build a momentum. And now Tom is fulfilling orders for maybe 10 issues at the stores. And then it filters to other stores.
Right.
10 issues doesn't sound like a lot at one comic store, but if he's doing it at 100 stores, at 1,000 distribution,
yep,
it starts somewhere. So you've got to tell your local stores when you like an indie book or you believe in an indie publisher that they have to carry it. Tell them, I want it, order it. All right, so that's what you got to do. Hi, Christina. Thanks for coming out again. So normally I do this in the beginning, but we're going to go backwards now.
Okay.
Whatever age you are, you say you had comics in your whole life, right? At what point, at that point in your life, were you like, you know what, I want to write comics? And what inspired you? Who are the writers that inspired you, and what got you going?
This is where I sound like a dick again, because I really...
Are you going back on it, man? This is the Don't Be a Dick episode.
It's it's not like a bad dick, but it's just like, this guy. Do
we know any good dicks? Yeah. Ron Jeremy. No.
I felt, like I said, I fell into it. Like I wanted to draw. Like that was my thing. I want to draw comics, and it took a while before I realized that's not going to happen. And so I fell into the writing side, and so I really wasn't trying to be a writer. I wasn't studying to be a writer. I wasn't, I was reading comics. That was it. And I was like, okay, how do I make a comic book? Like, what is it? But I never really had, there was no inspiration for it. It was just can I do it? Because at the time I had my 9-to-5 job. Everything was fine. I was doing it. I'm like, can I do this? Can I go to a con and sell a few issues on a weekend and just have fun with it? It was never intended to be, I'm going to be a comic book writer. That was never a thing. And so I started to write. The one person that I can say is a legitimate influence is Chris Claremont. I grew up, again, we're talking about the 80s and the X-Men. I mean, that's Chris Claremont, man.
Damn right.
And, his ability to not simply write words that were on the page, but write them in a way that you hear them in your head, accents and dialects and things like that.
Sure.
Not just writing out, I am writing out words that somebody will say on the page. When you read it, it's written in a way that... The
character was saying it.
Correct. Exactly. Correct. Yeah. Cannonball. I'm nigh invulnerable when I'm blasting. I mean, you can't not put... Right. The in your head, you can't not put the accent in your head. So Rogue, same thing. She's got that accent. So Chris Claremont has always been a big inspiration to me from the way that it's done.
By the way, he did a short DC series. It's like only 25 issues of Chris Ivy drawing called Sovereign 7.
Yeah, I have
I
it all
love
here.
Yeah, me too. I love that book. To me, Sovereign 7 is what indie books are now. Good quality stories with good quality art, but still maybe not above the radar yet, where they should be. So I just wanted to point that out. So sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's it. I mean, from once I started figuring out that I can't draw Critter, I started trying to figure out if I could write Critter, and that is where it all came from. And the Critter that you have now, this blue and white spandex superhero, is not what we started with, not by a long shot. It took a long time to kind of modify these ideas to become something that made sense to me.
Sure.
But once I had that path, I dove all the way in.
That's awesome. So now you're writing this book. What makes you say, well, I'm going to be a publisher now too? I'm going to start my own indie publishing company, because that is a arduous task, man. I mean, you're like saying, let me grab this boulder and go up the highest mountain. You know?
Well, it's an easy answer. Is that the 6 publishers that I pitched to all ignored me. I didn't even get a no. I got ignored.
I hate that. It's not professional.
So, you know, and I didn't. I mean, I did take it personally. The chip is still right there. It's still right there.
No, I don't think that's you.
But you know, from there it was like,
artists don't get back to me and blow me off. I get annoyed. I'm like, what the hell, man? At least just no. I mean, because to not respond is as if I don't exist. I think is the biggest disrespect. Sure. Just turn around and say thank you for the interest, but I can't make it. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And so it became, well, then I'll do it myself, guys. And you know, again, it was never meant to be the job, though. Even then, it was like that wasn't the point. It was still okay. I'll just make them do cons on the weekends and whatever. But it just happened that at kind of as all of that was happening, we were running into the recession from 20 years ago, and I lost my job, and it was like, okay, well, before I go like work at Walmart, let me see what can be done here with these books, because I had Penny and Critter basically done, and so I was like, well, let's talk to Diamond. Let's see what we need to do to actually put these things out on the market. What would happen? What do they sell? Does anybody care? And I don't know, maybe 6 months later, we were in Diamond. We got orders that were low in my mind. But again, this goes back to people who just assume you put a comic out and it sells. It just doesn't work that way. And we sold, I think it was like something like 3,500 copies of Penny #1. And it sold out of its print run like immediately, which is good. But I was hoping for more like 5,000. But my rep at Diamond was like, look, nobody knows who Big Dog Inc. is. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who your artist is. You don't have any variant covers. And you still sold 3,000 units of this book. Sure. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess that's true. And then again, like we talked about earlier, when we got to issue 2, and those guys saw that the book was selling off the actual shelf now, they ordered #2 in a high enough number that we just kept going. And we just kept going. And then Critter was released about, 4 months later in the summer. And away we went.
So you remind me of me, or I'm reminding myself that I'm like you. When you're that ambitious, we set high goals for ourselves. And I think ambitious people have to. That's how you start getting, because you're reaching very high. And people look at you and they're like, dude, what are you talking about? You're doing great, blah, blah, blah. And in your mind, they're like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing great enough. And it's maddening for us. It's stressful for us. Yeah. But it's also part of us enjoys it. We're like, yeah, bring it. Let's do it. I mean, am I wrong?
Yeah, figuring out how to do it better the next time. That's the thing. You can never be necessarily disappointed with your results, assuming you were successful. But you want to look at the next one and be like, okay, we did this here. How do we do it again and make it more successful? And then how do we build on it and build on it and build on it? But so many people don't understand the building part. Everything is taking a step, but they all want to just come in and be like, oh, I'm just going to go into Diamond. I'm going to sell 10,000 units. I got news for you. No,
It
you're not.
happening.
No,
I
you're
know.
not. There are image books that don't sell 10,000 units.
Right?
There are licensed property books that don't sell 10,000 units. So
We also have to remember comics alone is a niche
yep,
market.
yep.
So, I mean, how do you expect to
You're
just...
a niche within a niche.
Exactly. By the way, Rodney Ramos is here. What's up, Rodney? Mark had to leave, but he's saying, I'll let Mark know what you said. Rodney's going to be at my show December 6th. Sorry for the plug, but how you doing, Rodney? Real quick, Jack also said to tell them about the Patreon supporters getting a free comic every 6 months and about shooting for the discount.
Yeah, that's true. So what we do is every 6 months, the supporters on Patreon will get a free variant comic book. This year we did our Bikini Day for Critter. We did a Kickstarter for that, a Make 100 Kickstarter. It sold out in an hour, which I was not prepared for. I was like, where did that come from? But then we did a variant version of that cover, and all of the Patreon members, which at the time I think we had 19, they all got a free copy of that book.
Oh, nice.
And we'll do that again in January. So anybody that is a Patreon member through this year, through December now, they'll be getting a free comic book in January.
Awesome.
And then the discounts is once we get to 50, once we have 50 backers, right now we're at 30. Once we get 50 backers, those 50 backers will be what we call our foundation members. They will all get a free pin, and they will all get discounts wherever they're buying their stuff. So they're buying on the Comic Shopping Network show. They'll get discounts if they're coming to see me at shows. They'll get discounts, and that'll be just for those Foundation 50.
Awesome. By the way, Rodney, keep your goo at home when you come to the show. He asked a typo. He said gooey. And we'll get Rodney on this show as a guest one day. I'll talk to him about that later. Christina was saying, as far as the publishers, when we were talking about soliciting, she said, they don't like unsolicited work. She learned that from working at Random House.
Well,
but they love that from agents who are accredited with.
Yeah, but that's not the comic book world. The comic world's a little different. Comic book world, these are publishers. I mean, Image Comics, that's literally what they do.
Yep.
That's their job. Some of the other publishers, the same way. Dynamite Comics. I don't know. I mean, again, this was 10 years ago when I was doing this. Those things have changed, certainly. But 10 years ago when I was doing this, these publishers all had submission guidelines. Right. And I followed the submission guidelines and sent in the stuff. So it's very different than the book world. And again, I did get one response back from one publisher. And it wasn't really a no. It was just, hey, we've got something that kind of is similar. We don't want to double up. And I was like, yeah, of course, I understand that. That's fine. So I did get.
Did you go look and see if it was true?
No, at the time, no, I didn't care because I focused on the other 5 who ignored me, and I was like, so I'm just gonna do this myself. So don't worry about it, guys.
Think about it. That's the stuff that sparks you. It's like, oh yeah, well, enough you. I'm doing it myself.
Sure.
I don't need you. Oh, listen. I get that, Tom. I get that. I mean, I don't have 10 years in this industry like you do, but in a short time, I've made movements because I just. Like you, it's like, all right, you know what? You don't want to help me. I got it. I'll do it myself. I don't care if it takes a long time. This is a 15-round fight. And I'm in round 1. I know I got a good strong jaw. Throw the punches. Let's go. Yep. I'm with you. I agree. And we have to support guys like you and publishing. So, what would you recommend to people that are thinking of doing their own indie publishing company themselves? Like, what advice would you give them?
I mean, that's a really broad question because there's 1,000 points of light in that.
My job is to set you up and you hit it out of the park. That's, I answer it for you.
I think the key there would be don't think in that grand scale. Just make a comic book, focus on your comic book, whatever it is. Make sure that, like we talked about earlier, when you put it in somebody's hands, or if they happen to walk by it and are like, okay, I don't know what that is. Make sure that artistically there's something there to grab them. Mm-hmm. Focus on your comic 100% first. Make it speak for itself.
Right.
So that when somebody walks by it, they can't not want to look at it. They can't not want to pick it up and see it. From there, you build. Again, we're talking about building. You got to sell your first comic before you're a publisher. You know what I mean? Like anybody can just make a comic. Like anybody can. It's when you make issue 2, it's when you make issue 3, it's when you make issue 4. that's when you're a publisher, because you're doing something in a consistent basis. So, concentrate on, okay, I've got 5 issues I want to do. We're going to do all 5 of them in the next, 2 years. Set a goal for yourself. Don't overdo it. Don't just come out and be like, we're going to be this monthly. Like, you're not. It's not going to work that way. Slow down, especially now with no cons and stuff. Just slow down, take your time, build an audience. Like I said earlier in the show, I was flying around the country before I had any fan base whatsoever. And again, it was a mistake, but it also paid off. But it paid off because the book itself was quality. Because when people actually saw it, they were like, oh, that's a cool thing. And it doesn't matter if your mom tells you that you're the best. This is a key thing, guys. Okay. It's good that your mom supports you. It's good that they think you're an amazing writer or an artist, but it doesn't matter until you ask somebody to pay for it. And if you put a $5 price on a book and they laugh, they're the dicks, because no one should laugh. But you have to find something that people are willing to pay for,
right?
Because that's what comics is. Now, if you're just going to do vanity press and you just want to make a comic to say you did it, awesome, do it, go do it, throw it on Kickstarter, get yourself $1,000, make your comic, get it off your bucket list, whatever. So again, there's levels to what we're trying to do here. But if you're looking at becoming Scout or Vault Comics or whoever, those guys didn't just like wake up one day and become what they are. Everything there's a story behind all of those publishers. Yeah, there's a story behind all those publishers to get to where they are now. And even now, they struggle to sell units at Diamond. So Diamond is not the be all end all of selling comics. It just isn't. It maybe was 10 years ago when I started, certainly was 20 years ago. But right now in 2020, Diamond should not be your goal. It should be a goal, but it is not the goal. Like, once you get into Diamond, that's not the end of your job.
And the truth is, you have to be able to understand, you have to navigate, and you have to troubleshoot. Because things may not go the way you want. You may not get that connection that you wanted or that avenue that you wanted. Well, what do? Do you fold and cry, or do you just, all right, where do we go from here? Where's your focus?
You got to be able to take a left turn and a right turn. There was a time, and I won't call the publisher out, but there was a time when we first released our books, I had an interview at that point. I was like, they were like, so we're interested in taking your book on. And I was like, oh, okay. But they wanted me to stop everything that I was doing so that they could relaunch it through them, which I got, except that at that point I had already solicited like issue 3 of Penny for Your Soul, and things were selling well. And I was building on my own. I was already building. And I know that they saw that. And that's why they were like, well, why don't you come over here? But I was like, I don't want to stop this. Like, it took me too long to get to this point. I don't want to stop this now just to restart. And that just feels like it's a bit of a mess. So I was like, why don't we just run through this and we'll bring volume 2 to you guys? And they didn't want to do that. So here's Big Dog Inc.
Chris says, never fold and cry, kick and scream.
That's right.
Do you know Chris?
I know of Chris. I don't think we've ever met, but I know who he is.
Covers or even interiors, really quality artist. Sequentials are solid, and his cover work is solid. So.
Yeah, we're Facebook people, so I see his stuff.
Christina, well, first, Rodney said that you're right on with consistently putting out a series of issues to build an audience. Christina asked, what goals do you have for 2020? How do you think that cons will change how you as an artist creating a broader audience?
Well, the con scene, I've left the con scene for the most part. I used to do about 20 shows a year. Last year, I think I did 5, and that was on purpose. And a few of those were invites. I only did them because we were invited. And I've told conventions everywhere, like, if you want to invite me and get me a booth, let's do this. I will come in. I will do portfolio reviews. I'll do panels, like whatever you need for me to give back to help the show grow. I am happy to do it. But to get an invitation and then have the publisher or the promoter be like, oh yeah, and the booth is $1,000 and you have to pay for your hotel and you have to pay for your travel. And it's just like, why am I chasing $3,000 to come to your show? When I can literally turn my phone on the Comic Shopping Network every week for 2 hours and make the same money without even wearing pants? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And,
well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I've told publishers that. I was at Albuquerque this year, and somebody came by pitching their show for the summer. This was before all the COVID stuff went down. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to invite you to the show. And I was like, cool. I mean, we can do this. All I need is a corner booth, and we can do what we need to do. We don't have to take – Albuquerque gave me this whole end cap, which was fantastic. But we can do what we do in a corner space.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, so the corner space is, whatever it is, $700. I was like, well, no, you just said you invited me.
Yeah.
Invited me means.
Is that a new show? Because they don't know the terminology.
No, it's not. It's not. And so I told them that. I was like, why am I going to spend all this money when I can do this that I do at the Comic Shopping Network? He looked at me like I was from another planet. Like, promoters have no clue what is about to go down next year when they start to say, hey, come pay to be at our show, when all of these guys have been making money doing this. Right. It's going to be a different world. For me, I have no plans to do. Yeah, I have no plans to do shows next year, really at all at this point, because I don't know what the COVID situation is going to be. But outside of maybe C2E2, because that's kind of my hometown show, it'll be an invitation situation where somebody wants me to come, invite me, give me a table. I will bring some artists, cosplayers. We'll have a good time. But that's my convention. My convention is what I do every single week on the Comic Book Shopping Network right now.
Well, speaking of divas here, this guy, man, I saw the show last time. Oh my God, what a diva! He wanted waiter service to his table during the show. He wanted
I want that too now.
Water. I mean, it was crazy. Now,
Norm, send me a copy of whatever contract you have.
Yeah,
I want that contract.
I am wearing pants today, Norm. Norm was a great guy, and actually, he was very, very easy. He was a great guest, and he was very easy, and it'll be great having him back. Now, I do agree with you to a degree as far as how it's going to affect shows and promoters, and I'll tell you what I think, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
People who have established a strong base online will have that leverage.
Yes.
But what promoters are probably going to do is try to tie in with you, where instead of bringing you to the physical con, they'll try to tie into your online thing to work together.
Possible.
So I think that'll be good, though, because it'll help you both mutually without the exchange of ridiculous money.
Sure.
But there's going to be a lot of people that don't have that leverage that are going to think, oh, I could just stay home and do this. Okay. But if I'm bringing in 20,000 people and at least 40% of those people are comic people, how many viewers are you getting on your thing? So we do have to be careful with that, because there's a lot of people in this industry that seem to think they're at a higher level than they are, and they're going to learn the hard way. Now, like I said, you have a lot going on with the Artist Alley Network and stuff, so it makes sense for you to say that. But I know I've seen some people that, listen, you have 6 people at the most watching you draw something. You're going to get thousands of eyes on you at a con, so I agree with you in the specific areas of what you're talking about. Guys like Norm, they hold you at gunpoint. It's just, I mean,
only green M&Ms in my hotel,
The guy's like, you know what? The green room needs to be shut off for an hour just for me. I'm like, really, Norm? No. Norm, she stole everything. Han ship, Chewie's freaking ship, freaking the text, everything. She stole it all. Sorry, don't mind me. That's a Star Wars thing.
Cons. No one is saying don't do cons. Like, don't misunderstand. But if you live in California and you're going to try and go and do New York Comic Con, it's going to cost you a fortune.
No, you're right.
Do it. So you have to be very smart about which cons you're doing. That's really the message. It's not don't do cons. It's be smart about where you're going.
Agreed. And like I said, I do think it does open up an avenue now, though, for like you were saying before, the comic unity of how you can work with shows. Mm-hmm. I think that is going to be something new too, whether it stays where you're virtual, where you are, but you're a part of the event, or they do say, all right, come to the booth and bring us to the virtual world.
Right.
Yeah, because like for my show on December 6th, I will be live streaming from my from my my channel here to and it's just a smart thing to do, of course.
Yeah.
And you're bringing it to a broader audience, and you never know, people who don't know the show are going on, see it live, go, oh crap, I can get there in 20 minutes, and wow. So that's the way it is. Oh yeah, by the way, Norm, the Tang, you just have to have Tang all the time. Tang cupcakes and everything. It's just Tang, Tang, Tang. God. So again, if you want to plug something before we get going, please plug it, say it. The Patreon, as you can see, everybody is scrolling below. It's patreon.com/BigDogInc. You've got BigDogInc.com. If you want to buy any of his books, all of his books, all the published books, I'm telling you, I mean, quality stuff, go to BigDogInc.com. Also go to your local comic shops and demand that they start ordering it. Demand. Go in there and say, damn it, and pound your fist on the table. I want Big Dog Inc. in here.
That's right.
I'm not coming back.
That's right. That's right.
Look, this has been great. I appreciate you coming out. Again, thanks for looking to bail me out last week. I appreciate it. And I'm booked through March, but when you start launching Oz in January, we'll fit it in. We'll if you want to, please come back on and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once we have an official launch date, I'll let you know, and then we can take it from there.
Jack, just so you know, Norm's wife made some Tang cupcakes once, and now it's just a running joke with Norm, and he loves his Tang. So if you follow Norm, you'll see.
I didn't even know Tang still existed. That alone seems weird to me.
Yeah, Norm made me realize that. But again, Norm is probably the kind of guy that would lick his finger just to put it in there and get.
Oh, of course, of course. What else do you do? Wait, what else do you do with Tang? That's it. That's it.
I had a joke there, but we're gonna keep this PG. Think of American Pie. No, I was kidding. Tom, thanks for coming on, man. I'm glad we got to face finally.
Absolutely.
You come back in January for the launch of Oz. Yep. Everybody, you've got about 10 days left in his current campaign for Ursa Minor. Werebears. That's all I can say. Werebears, man. Not Care Bears. Don't get it confused. Not Care Bears. Werebears. All right? It's awesome. That's all I can say. You like horror. You like the science fiction aspect as well. Ursa Minor going on right now. You got about 10 days left. Go check it out. Thank you. Yeah, Tom just put up the Kickstarter link. Click it right now. It's not expensive. Support indie people. It's a quality book. Go check it out. And then of course, Critter and Penny. Why do I keep forgetting the last part of this damn title? I'm sorry.
Your soul. Your soul.
I'm so sorry about that. And so many other titles published here, at least 11 you said, right?
Yep.
So go support. There's something for everybody. I mean, there's a book there for everybody.
Yeah, and if we get to 20,000 on this campaign, we're actually going to unlock a brand new title. We're gonna unlock a stretch goal where everybody will be getting a free 8-page preview book of a title that I've been working on for a while. That's just kind of been in the back of my head, and I finally made it work. And so I was like, well, we can put out a little preview book. It's called Rules to Live By. It's going to be another horror series. So if we get to 20,000, we will unlock a free comic book in addition to whatever other books that you buy.
Cool. And just keep in mind, too, he's building a universe here. So, I mean, there's a lot of interconnecting between the characters. It's the stuff you miss from the...
But it's nothing that you have to go one way or the other.
Right.
If you read Critter and you get to the Penny for Your Soul crossover, that's it. That's the story. Right. You don't have to go buy Penny in order to get the story. There is crossover character and story, but it doesn't force you to buy extra books. I think that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But isn't that when Marvel and DC were at their heyday? They weren't doing the gimmicks to force you to buy more books. They were writing quality stories for the sake of quality stories.
Yeah, but then they realized that when they put the Punisher in a book, people would go buy that book. Right. So then they started to cross over the stories. So you had to buy Spider-Man 87 and Punisher 22 to get the story. And that's where it started getting haywire.
No, I agree. But I mean, again, you're looking at a publisher that's putting out books that are reminiscent of what we loved in comics in the 80s. Spandex and supernatural and superheroes, and it's not so grounded in reality that you don't feel like you're escaping reality anymore, which is the friggin' point.
Yeah.
And you've got the crossovers, but you've got a universe being built. So, man, if you are not thrilled with what you're seeing in the big publishers today, especially, you need to go check this out. So.
Yep.
Man, Tom, thanks for coming on. And,
of course, thanks for having me.
If you want to hang backstage for a minute,
Sure.
If you don't have anywhere to go, I'll just say my see-yous to everybody. But thanks again for coming on. Anybody got any last questions for Tom before we go? By the way, Steve said, "Great show, fellas. Thanks for joining by Tom and Philip. Your hair looks beautiful." Oh, I always look beautiful. I was hoping the pigtails look. Oh, I got pigtails, but it's not the hair on my head.
I'll have to remember that for next time. We'll get it set up for you next time, partner.
Yeah. You got to do the critter ears, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you did look like Steven Seagal. He said. John said, "Thanks, Tom." Keith said, "Awesome show." So yeah, man, awesome. Thanks again, and looking forward to having you back. And I'm gonna go check out Ursa Minor myself and get the back issues as well. So.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
All right, man. See you in a minute. So that was episode 30.5 because I had to edit in because I couldn't do last Friday. Tom, awesome guy. Obviously, as you can tell, awesome guest. I had a lot of fun. Please check out his Patreon, which is down there again. A lot of great things going on. You can get a free book every 6 months through them. They have exclusives that you can only get through the Patreon. They have 2 tiers, so check that out. Please go check out BigDogInc.com to pick up all the different books they have. They have something for everybody. Go follow Tom on Facebook, unless you're a nut. If you're crazy, leave him alone. But otherwise, go follow him. And go check out Artist Alley Shopping Network if you want to see artists doing their thing and, possibly buy some art. Comic Book Shopping Network if you want to buy comics. Comic Unity Online, which is basically an online convention, in its own right. So he's got so much going on. He's a big pillar in the community. He works very hard at this. So please go support him. Do your thing. Having said that, tomorrow night at 10 p.m. on Creatorcon Q&A, and it's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I have Mike DeBalfo. If you don't know Mike, he's a really nice guy, a tremendous artist, and he does the indie thing. He's done Zenoscope, he's done Aspen, and he's out in Phoenix. So I think it's a 2-hour difference now, so it'd be 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now the time changed, but anyway, so 10 p.m. tomorrow, Mike DeBalfo. Please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel Creatorcon event. Please remember that I have a show on December 6th, a physical convention. Is small, but we will be clean. We will take care of everything. I am a nurse by day, comic promoter by night. I promise you we'll be safer than Walmart. Billy Tucci will be there, Larry Stroman, Keith Williams, Rodney Ramos, and others will be there. So please come on out. It's a $5 cash at the door. You can't beat that. And like I said, we will keep it safe. There are no aisles, so there's no log jamming. It's an open room with them all outside on the border of the room. And there's 2 rooms. And having said that, thank you so much for everybody that comes out and your support. Thanks for all the regulars that come out. Thanks to everybody that really is part of the community and makes this all worthwhile. I really appreciate it. I'm going to tell you and leave you with what I always do, and that's be legendary and have fun storming the castle.